Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sarah McGinley. I'm an occupational therapist at the University of Southampton. I'm one of the occupational therapy lecturers on the BSc and the MSc programmes here, and I'm also an admissions tutor. I'm joined today by Belinda Williams, who will also be taking part in the session later on. So very nice to see you. What we'd like to do today is give you a brief overview of our programmes and also talk you through how to strengthen your application, and this is really where our students will come into their own and talk to you guys as well. So the picture you can see on your screen here is actually in our Activities of Daily Living suite, which is here based on Highfield campus at Southampton. And just to give you a session outline of today, so already told you my name is Sarah McGinley. And we're going to talk about the programme, give you a brief overview of what you would expect if you were to come and study here at Southampton. We also, in the chat, you will see some links to some videos. So there's several videos that we'd really encourage you to go and have a look at in your own time. There's a subject to talk one, there's a student experience, and there's one around placement, replacement module, which was when the pandemic first hit and students were unable to go out on placement and what we did in that event. As I said, we've got two students here today who will come on screen and share with you their reflections on their own application process. And we'll talk to you about how to prepare to apply for the programme. We'll spend some time talking about work experience and why it's important that you demonstrate you've had work experience, preferably in occupational therapy, but if not, in health and social care in general, and how you can apply that to the role of an occupational therapist. We'll talk about the application process, so we'll talk about UCAS, we'll talk about applying to Southampton. So we are part of the Faculty of Health Sciences. We're one of the UK's leading schools in health professions for education and research, which we're really, really proud of. We have a growing national and international reputation in the health sector, and that really is thanks to the staff that we have on programme. We have occupational therapists working with us who still work clinically. Some of us are working in research, and some of us work full-time in education, or a combination of all three of those things. So within the Faculty of Health Sciences, we have obviously occupational therapy, physiotherapy, podiatry, healthcare science, nursing and midwifery. And if you do decide to come and study here, you will have the pleasure of studying with all of those professions, really in preparation for getting you ready for practice out in the real world. So both our OT programmes, our BSc and our MSc programmes, offer you the opportunity to join our professional body, which is the British Association of Occupational Therapists, also known as the Royal College of Occupational Therapists, and it gives you that eligibility to apply to register with the Health and Care Professions Council in the UK. So once you've met all the requirements of the programme, you can then apply to a professional register which will allow you to hold the title of occupational therapist and to work under the register of the HCPC. Our programmes are accredited by the World Federation of Occupational Therapy, which means they're recognised worldwide, and if it is your desire to go and work in a different part of the world, then training to be an occupational therapist is a really, really good option, because you can travel to all kinds of places and work as an OT once you've got your basic qualification here in the UK. So as I said before, we are a teaching team. All of us are therapists, with the exception of, you can see on the screen there, we have Maggie Donovan Hall, who is a doctor in psychology, and we have James Gavin, who is a doctor in physiology. Everybody else on the screen there is an occupational therapist, so is registered with the HCPC, as I just mentioned. We have Rachel Dadswell in the corner, who is our programme lead. And I won't talk through everybody, but as you can see, we're a mixed bunch of therapists there, and all of us, like I say, are either still working in practice, or we're doing our own research, or we're working full-time in education. We all have our special interests, and that really influences the direction of our teaching and then the education projects that we work on with our students, which is really exciting. In terms of research, you're probably very aware that the University of Southampton is a Russell Group university, so it's a very prestigious university, known for its research and known for its research quality, and the occupational therapy team is very proud of that. And here on the screen you can see just a few examples of the things that our OT team have been working on in the last couple of years. So some real diverse projects, from looking at communication for people living with cancer to looking at orthotics for people with rheumatoid arthritis in their fingers. And you can see there on the screen some jewellery that often is not very aesthetically pleasing, but research has developed some pieces of orthotics that are nicer to look at and more comfortable for clients to wear. We also are really proud of the work that we do globally. So we have projects in Cambodia and Uganda, looking at how to improve services for people who use prosthetic limbs. And also we have work going on in Brazil around frailty. If you decide to come and be a student here at the University of Southampton, we have some great virtual collaborations with universities around the world. So we have collaborations currently with Sweden, Ireland, Australia, Hong Kong, South Africa, Canada, France and Croatia. So it's a really exciting time to come and train to be an OT. In terms of what makes us unique at Southampton, this is a poster that we developed for something called Occupational Therapy Week, which runs every year in November. And there's 3 points that we like to focus on here at Southampton. So, like I just mentioned, the international collaborations that we offer our students. So, pre-COVID, we were able to offer physical exchanges. Sadly, at the moment, that's all on hold, but we still really have this important, strong thread running through the programme that exposes our students to OT students in other countries. So we call that internationalisation of the classroom. We also focus very much on role emerging and non-traditional or diverse practice for our students. So in your final year of practice, you will have the opportunity to undertake a diverse placement. So generally that means an area where occupational therapists have traditionally not worked, or maybe they're just starting to emerge into that area. Examples of that have included working with charities for young carers, for the Criminal Justice Service, for the Job Centre in GP practices, with the Fire Brigade and Ambulance Service, and with perinatal services. So lots and lots of rich experience for you to be able to explore there in terms of developing OT. And then we're actually the only UK university to be able to offer some OT specific training for our undergraduates, which really uses an occupational lens. So there's 2 bits of training that we offer. So we have the assessment of motor processing skills and the ESI training, and both of those are unique to this university. So if you come here, you have the opportunity to do that training at an extra cost, but to go out as a graduate and to have those qualifications is unique. You won't find that anywhere else in the UK. So the way our programme runs, our educational focus, I'll look at the BSc programme first and then lead into the MSc programme. So the BSc programme is a 3-year programme, and it's split down into what we call level 4, level 5 and level 6. So year 1 being level 4, it's very student focused, so it's where students learn about themselves. So it's very reflective, they start to experience new things, maybe try new occupations, start to think about how they themselves might respond to new situations. And that's really important when we start to think about how we might work with the clients that we might see in daily practice. Level 5 is year 2, and we move that learning. It's a spiral approach to learning. So level 4 is that foundational knowledge, where students look at themselves. We then step it up a gear into level 5, year 2, where we start looking at specific client groups or clients that you might work with as an occupational therapist. And then in level 6, in year 3, again, it's another foundational level. We're looking much bigger, a bigger picture. We're looking at the services in which OTs will work in. So that could be the NHS, it could be local authority, could be charities, it could be private organisations. So we're thinking bigger, and we're thinking the populations and the services that we might work within and that we might influence in terms of healthcare provision. The MSc programme is still a pre-registration programme, so it's designed for people who have a first degree, a relevant degree, which might be in a social science or a pure science, who want to come and then train as to be an occupational therapist. So as you would expect, it's a condensed programme. It's over 2 calendar years, but it straddles those 3 years of the BSc. So there are times when, as an MSc student, you would also be working with BSc students on shared modules. You'd also have individual modules that were unique to the MSc programme. If you've got any questions about the differences in the programmes, please do pop them in the chat and we can help you navigate that. So this up on the screen now is just an overview, an example of actually the BSc programme. So we talked about that educational approach, and this is just an example of what those 3 years look like when they're split out. So you can see from the screen there, in year 1 you have 1 placement, which is 6 weeks long. In year 2 you have 2 placements together, they're both 6 weeks. And then in year 3 you have a longer placement, which is 10 weeks. And that amounts to 1,000 clinical practice hours out in practice, and that's required for you to register with the HCPC. You'll see dotted around on the timetable there various modules. Again, you'll see a thread, so we have therapeutic engagement and partnerships that runs all the way through the programme. We have a module in year 1, year 2 and year 3. We also have a design module that runs in year 1 and 2, and then you have some shared modules, so the interprofessional practice in year 1 and your influencing innovation and change are both modules that you would do with your allied health profession and nursing colleagues. In terms of the assessments that we offer for our students, it's a real eclectic mix. So you'll never just do exams, you'll never just do essays. We do try and make sure that our assessments are varied and diverse. So in terms of written assessments, you will prepare a research proposal in your 2nd year, which will then go on to be your final project in your 3rd year. You might write some reflective case studies. You may have pen and paper exam. You might prepare posters or some kind of recording, that could be a video or maybe a blog. In terms of practical assessments, you're very much looking at simulated practice. So you might be simulating what might be going on in the community or in the hospital setting, for example, as an examination. You might also be involved in group presentations and individual presentations. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to do your 1,000 hours out in practice, and that is assessed by a qualified occupational therapist who's working in practice. While we're talking about placements, it's important for you to be aware that although the university is based in Southampton, not all placements are based within the local area. So when you're thinking about where to study, it's really important that you appreciate you could be sent further afield to a place that maybe requires you to commute, or maybe even somewhere that requires you to go and live somewhere else, so to have second accommodation for a 6 or a 10-week period. So placements tend to be obviously in and around Southampton, but down as far as the Isle of Wight, across into Dorset, up towards Salisbury, Winchester, across to Chichester. So if you think about the square at the bottom of the country, that's really where our placements might be. So over the 4 placements that you have in the undergraduate and the BSc programme, they will be a mix, and that's our responsibility as a programme to ensure that you have a diverse experience within practice. So that will be across physical and mental health settings, and it will be across an inpatient setting versus a community setting. So you won't come out having only ever worked in a hospital or having only ever worked in the community. There'll be a mix of those, and within that there'll be a range of different types of conditions and service users that you will work with. In terms of the academic requirements for entry to the programme, these are published on our website. So we're looking for 5 GCSEs, which must include maths, English and a science, and all grade C or grade 4 and above. And then in addition to those GCSEs, we're looking for 3 A-levels equivalent to BBB. 1 must be in a science subject. So it could be in sociology or psychology, so social science is absolutely acceptable. And then we do have options when you're looking at if you've taken a BTEC or if you've taken access to higher education course. So again, if you've got any questions specifically around qualifications, please do pop them in the chat and we can endeavour to answer them for you. Otherwise, we can refer you to our admissions team and let you have their email address. Now, as this is a professional course, equal to the academic requirements, we really need to know about your professional ability as well. So as much as our academic requirements are important, our professional requirements are also really important. So in terms of work experience, I can't labour this point enough. We really want you to get out there and to see occupational therapists in practice. So if you're able to get work experience, be that face-to-face or virtual, that's really important. The more that you can get, the better, because that will strengthen your application, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So we really ideally want you to go out and speak to occupational therapists. So if you think about the diverse range of settings that OTs work in, be creative. Don't just approach your local hospital. Think about local government, think about schools, think about charities. Do a Google search, see where your local OT teams are hiding out and see if you can get your foot in the door. So preparation really is key. Make sure you use the opportunity. So if you get that opportunity to go and shadow an OT, even if it's for half a day or a couple of hours, go prepared with questions, take some notes, reflect on your experience, think about what you learned from that experience. How did it impact you? How will it impact you moving into the profession of OT? So really reflect on what you learned. Don't just tell us what you saw, tell us what it meant to you and how you'll use that moving forwards. So in terms of the application process, UCAS, as you probably know, is now open and it closes on the 26th of January next year. So once we get all those applications in, we start working through them. It's not a first come, first serve. So if you get your application in before the 26th of January, you have an equal opportunity to be screened and to be invited to interview. So first of all, a team will screen your academic qualifications, and if you pass that part, your application will come through to myself and Belinda as admissions tutors, and we'll be really interested in your personal statement, which is what our second part of our session is going to be about. So if your personal statement meets our requirements, you'll be shortlisted to an interview, and interviews for this academic cycle for entry in 2022 will continue to be virtual. So they'll be on the Teams platform. You'll be invited to an interview where you will meet two members of staff. Could be a member of staff of the OT team here at the university, could also be a clinician working in practice. We then go away and make our decisions and let you know as soon as we can. And really what we're looking for is really that work experience in your personal statement. So I can't tell you that enough. If you pass the initial part with your academic qualifications, you don't then need to tell us about those qualifications in your personal statement. We're much more interested in understanding why you want to be an OT, how you found out about it, and what you've done to get you to this point in time.